This is the Maida Initiative, conversation without compromise.
You know, the enemy within cannot defeat you. The enemy, the enemy outside cannot defeat you if you have unity from within. So Africa, the issue has nothing to do with the France, has nothing to do with the European Union, has nothing to do with, although they do play roles, but you can't do anything to me if we are strong from within. And Africa's issue is from within and holding each other accountable and understanding your true goal for this nation and your true goal for Africa in terms of unity. And until that happens, you will continue to see chaos in every pocket of the continent. And, it's unfortunate, and that's the way it is. And now China is coming in with money, so they're purchasing everybody off. And that's another thing that we got to worry about on top of everything that we're dealing with.
Right. So if Africa doesn't deal with its internal issues, then there's another external power waiting in the wings just to kind of swoop in and exploit all over again.
Yes. Exploit, push their initiative, their agenda. Imagine this, James. Imagine Africa was a very powerful nation, consists of all these small countries, right? Because you still got to respect the language, the cultural practices that exist within the continent. And we were united under one currency. And we had our own agenda. And we've decided to come to America or to Europe or to Asia to push our agenda and our initiative. Those continents and nations would feel offended, insulted, disrespected, that we are coming to impose our way of life, our agenda from the motherland, the continent, towards European nations and Asian nations and the Arab nations. And they will do whatever it takes to make sure that we don't bring our agenda to their nations. So when you look at what's going on today, everyone else is doing the same thing to us that they wouldn't want themselves to be done to them, basically.
Right.
And that is not fair to Africa. It's not fair to Somalia. Somalia right now has every nation inside our country to create a sphere of influence, to create an influence over that country. You have the British supporting the North. The Italians still have connection with the South. We know Djibouti is gone. When they were given opportunity to become an independent nation and to join Somalia, somehow they decided to stay colonized. They're like, we want to continue the colonization. And they became independent in 1975. And then you have the issue with Kenya. So for me, I care less about the Somalis in Kenya coming back to Somalia, or Djibouti coming back, or Ethiopia, Somalis give us our region back. That's not what I'm fighting for. What I'm fighting for is one Africa, countries without, restrictive movement, because right now we don't have any relationships. The only thing that happens in Africa is conflict. You see always fighting between brothers and sisters. For what reason? For nothing. So in order to overcome all these obstacles, we need a united Africa. We need Africa that has an agenda that's going to really help our future offsprings. The same thing I would want for my kids who are living in a good life right now, who are doing well, who are, thinking about their future. I want the same thing for my brothers and sisters in Somalia. I want for my brothers and sisters in the continent. I would want for every nation that, that is thriving, the same thing. But whenever I say, please stay out of our politics, our internal affair, then somehow I become, they say one man's terror is another man's freedom fighter, right? So as long as Europe and all these guys are freedom fighter in terms of advocating for their rights, they make everyone else look like, oh, we got Al-Shabaab, we got this, we got that. All this is a creation of so that you can control chaos. That's what I call it. It's a controlled chaos in the world. When you have Al-Shabaab, a bunch of small pockets creating chaos. So I hope to see, Africa free from external affairs.
So that ties quite neatly into my next question here. So what you've been saying is that Somalia became weak from within, which allowed it to be exploited from without, right? So
Yes.
let's do the kind of reverse of that, right? So in an
Mhm.
ideal world, obviously it's the Somali people's responsibility to fix what's going on in Somalia. But for people outside of Somalia who are not Somali but
Mhm.
care about the future of the country, how are ways that people who are not Somali or nations that are not Somalia can come alongside the country in the future in a way that's not pushy, in a way that's not colonial?
How can they contribute? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I mean, when we in the West, when we talk about bringing ideas, you got to allow things to come from bottom to top approach, right? So usually we have a lot of policies where always leadership tells you what to do. We want you to implement this. We know what's best for you. We think, just come with open-minded if you have an idea, because I wouldn't reject anyone that came to me with an open-minded idea that didn't have any pre-existing conditions, right? And the majority, sorry, I got a phone call. I feel like majority of the folks that come to Africa or even to Somalia have some pre-existing condition. And if folks are really willing about the growth of a nation and the development of a nation, let's create a partnership, or whatever idea or proposal that you have should be something that is mutual, that benefits us both. Until we have that type of mindset, I don't think outsiders can really contribute to a nation, because what you're doing is some people are coming in and saying, we know better. Since we know better, let me show you how we do things. I've attended the Somali diaspora meeting in Washington, D.C. The Minister of Financing came, a bunch of Somalis from the diaspora came, youngsters who really wanted to see, they wanted us to come back and contribute, right? Which is great. But I got to have the basic necessities. You got to have safety. You got to have a working system in order for me to come. If the president is hiding and the prime minister's life is at risk, what do you think someone at the diaspora working at Microsoft and Expedia and doing, entrepreneurship is going to risk his life and go and just walk away from all this? Impossible. They won't do that. So what we asked them, we said, if there's no safety, then there's no prosperity. Safety is the number one priority. And so we had folks who were from the World Bank there. We had folks who were from different sector of world politics. But one thing that I've noticed is everyone preached as the knower of all. We know better. We can show you how to build, right? But the goal is, okay, if you are the driver and I'm in the passenger seat, that means I have no control of my destiny in terms of the things that I can do within the country. And it's like when you get in debt, when China gives you a loan, that loan comes with, pre-existing conditions. And if you cannot fulfill that, then that means you have to give up something. And so that's the kind of the things that we want to avoid in terms of people who really want to bring ideas to the table, proposal to the table. We want to make sure that we understand there's a mutual benefit between nations. Your benefit is my benefit. And that's what we're hoping for in terms of when it comes to allowing folks to come in and to contribute. Just the same way, if you were to call on me in Africa and say, Ayanle or Somalia, we need your assistance. Example is COVID-19. Nations that we look down on, like Venezuela, Cuba, right? That we've created this image of these nations are villains. when COVID-19 happened, who was the first nation that ran to Italy to help them out? Right? The first nation to help out Italy were Venezuela and Cuba to stabilize the situation because they have so many doctors, you know, the experience that they have. And when it comes to other nations, we see nations running to the aid of other nations. So let's think about when it comes to collective contribution, let's think about 50-50. Let's think about what it means to be partner in whatever that proposal is. And that's why I welcome any contribution as long as it's not something that's pre-cooked. That's what I call it. Don't bring me to a table that you already cooked the meal and ready and you just want me to eat with you. Let's start the cooking from scratch.
Right. So so people coming in to view the country as a potential to exploit it, and almost people coming in to see it as charity are the two sides of the same coin, because it's both a posture of, okay, we kind of know what works best.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not treating someone as an equal, right? And an equal can critique, an equal has ideas, but an equal doesn't assume they're the leader of a situation that the other person knows more about.
True, I agree.
So are you optimistic about the future of Somalia right now, or does it feel kind of dark for you?
To be honest with you, you gotta be optimistic because you gotta look at life this way. A civil war broke out as a child, not knowing what the future holds. You flee to a neighboring country. You end up in refugee camps, and you end up in America, and you get the opportunity to do many great things. And so when I look at life, it's like the bird. Your wings have to be balanced, fear and hope. I fear that we might get into more chaos, but also I'm very optimistic in terms of what the end result will be. I believe there'll be a day where folks will get tired of this and say, you know what, we no longer care about the tribalistic, practices. And so I'm very hopeful. I got kids. You got to be hopeful when you have kids, man. Many people don't like kids. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that say, man, I don't like kids. I'm saying, why? They said it's easier to raise a dog and to put them down whenever. I said, man, that's pretty harsh. But at the end of the day, if you are having a kid and you're a parent, you're always hopeful and optimistic of what they can become. And as a parent, I'm very hopeful for Somalia that one day they will overcome what they're going through. And today, I think Somalia is better off than 5 years ago, better off than 10 years ago. I can go travel into many cities in Somalia. I can go to Mogadishu, and not really feel that, my life is in danger. Yeah, there might be, bombings here and there. You have those things, but it's like Chicago. If I go to Compton, if I go to Chicago, to certain neighborhoods, things can go wrong quickly, and so neighborhood has no crime. I mean, there's nations where you're going to have some issues, but I think we can overcome that. There's definitely a lot of us in the diaspora are very optimistic in terms of Somalia overcoming its issues.
So for you, do you believe that do you believe in, curious if you believe that Somalia and the world has a destiny, if there's a sort of a script we're all living by, or do you think it's in the hands of the people who live there?
I think it's always the hands of the people. If you look at the Boston Tea Party, it was the hands of the people, right? They wanted liberation. When you look at the Civil War, it was the hands of the people to create change. Some nations go through wars to get to where they need to get to. At times, I'm a believer of people can bring change from within. And if the world can preach, this is where Somalia should be, this is how it should, if the people are not accepting that, nothing will change.
Right.
So the change comes from within. And I believe As long as we are going towards that route, that path of, you know what, we had enough. We had enough of division. Your success is my success. Your failure is my failure. When we have that type of attitude and we create constitution based on, we, not we when I say as a nation, not we as my tribe and this and that, then you will see a nation that's moving forward. But to be honest with you, you have the whole world in our waters. Still can't figure out how to control the situation because everyone is not coming with a pure intention. Everyone is coming in with an agenda. Whether the agenda is up front or hidden, God knows best. But at the end of the day, all I know is similar ideas will not be allowed in waters. Other sovereign nations will not allow other folks to invade their waters. But people will always take advantage of the vulnerable and of the weak. But one day, just like how we received our independence and empires got tired of ruling others, people will get their sovereignty back and we'll get back to regular life. But, you just got to get, I'm a man of faith, so, I leave it up to God. Destiny is written for all of us. We remember the Mongolian nations when they used to rule the world. We remember, Rome when it used to rule the world. We remember when Ottomans were ruling the world. You remember so many empires that, that disappeared. And then also you had other empires that emerged. And, it's up to God who's going to emerge from all the chaosness in the future.
Well, I agree. And I'm hopeful as well, because one thing that you see in the Bible specifically is there's a promise that the kingdom of God, what it does is it grows gradually and gradually breaks apart all the empires on earth, but blesses all the nations. So fundamentally, empires, Europeans ruling Africa, Arabs ruling Africa, Mongolians ruling Africa, anybody ruling anybody else is not a good thing, right? It's not the way God has intended the world to exist.